Yes.
Okay, let me, okay.
So, just for startups, heartily warm welcome from three amigos here. So, in Playa del Carmen, it's really great. As I just explained, we've been working very hard the last 7 months towards a certain point, organizing with the starting core team, and now we're really excited that we are sort of coming to this point that the new team members can step in and yeah, we can expand not only our visions but only support each other. So that's really awesome. So thanks everybody for that part. I think we will start with a presentation, and Troy will sort of be narrating it, and we will support him while he's on it. So yeah, that's I think enough said for us now here, and let's do
maybe
it.
we can do a little introduction of the core team members. Most of you know me, I'm Tony. We have Robert, but you have not met some of the other people here. So, you guys just quickly want to introduce yourselves?
Well, I'm Lise. I'm French Canadian, and I'm in a cafe right now, so it's very noisy. I'm in Greece right now, and going back to Playa in a couple of weeks to try to work there. And I'm the co-creator of the World Summit Cafe. And well, that's it, I guess. And I'm very happy that to see you all your face there. I don't know most of the people, but I would like to know you. Thank you, and thank you, Robert, Tony, to do such a great work. Thank you.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm Richard Osmaston. I'm down here in New Zealand, and we're farming down here and doing engineering work in the daytime, but our real lives are spent with Money Free Party New Zealand. And so we've contested 2 general elections and 3 mayoralties in local elections under a resource-based economy banner. So that's we're probably the most out there group in the World Summit group specifically promoting a resource-based economy in New Zealand. And we've had some success, actually. So we had 5 candidates in the last 2 general elections. And we don't talk about anything else. We just talk about a money-free world and a resource-based economy. So we're pushing it pretty hard here. And sometimes it's a bit extreme for people, but it's kind of good to be at the front, actually. Sometimes in New Zealand, we think we're at the back, but other days I think, oh, maybe we're at the front. And it's fantastic now.
Ubuntu at all?
Oh yeah, we have plenty of Ubuntu here as well, but they're just not quite as extreme as us.
Okay.
So it's and it's great to have variations on the same theme. It adds great credibility to the cause, you know. And of course now we have the World Summit at our back. You know, fantastic to meet with these guys in Mexico at the beginning of this year. It again adds an international credibility to what we're doing, which is frequently a question that we get. We spend a lot of time on the street. We have a bus especially for that purpose. And one of the sort of last questions people have is, what about the rest of the world, Richard? And that's my cue to introduce the World Summit. And of course, you know, there's such a powerful, big organized team now. The clout that they come with is just phenomenal, you know, so it's really exciting to be here. And, you know, today with all you guys is yet another step up that ladder, which we've been on for 10 years actually, but it's, you know, we're getting to the sort of mushroom cloud stage and it's really exciting. So thank you so much for all being here. And, you know, the guys in the middle up there for starting it in the first place. That's amazing. So over to the next one. Jodian, what are you up to?
Hi, everyone. Pretty much the same thing over here in the UK. And during the day, I run a charity shop as well. And that's it, really, you know. But just glad to be uniting with everybody. It's brilliant.
Where are you in the UK?
I'm Bristol based.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm JJ. I know most of you communicate. I'm here in Playa del Carmen. I'm just not in the same location as Robert and Troy and Tony. I'm happy to see you all here. Don't like to talk much about myself, so I'll just leave it at that.
Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
JJ.
Oh, you're JJ. Hi.
Hi.
Gabor?
Hi, I'm Gabor from Hungary, but I live in Spain and now I'm in London. So I'm just working from here. I was there at Mexico when the World Summit just came to an existence, and since then I'm working on mostly communication and technology slices, also alternative funding. So it was a very exciting 6 to 7 months. Yeah, basically. And besides that, I'm working on the Ambienta project, which is an open source, which creating an open source economy, a tokenized economy. And I see here Sergey, who's working with us also. So, hi. And that's it.
Are you in the funding project bit? Are you in the funding thing?
Yes, we are tokenizing an ecosystem around cloud-based manufacturing, which will be fully open source, and you can customize blueprints and download everything and create on your own what you want. So it's like
the stuff that James is doing.
Yeah, so yeah, James is also, yeah, and what William we are working on. So I met a lot of you here from other groups and other activities. So that's great to be here with you also. Thanks.
Yeah, we've got a few more delegates that I'm hoping will join us a little later. My name's Troy Wiley. I'm from the U.S., from Colorado, but been a digital nomad for the last 3 years. I'm a writer. I have a book called The Next Copernican Revolution, which is actually, I finished the end of 2016. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but then I found Tony and the World Summit, and it was a beautiful culmination of what was next for me. And so, what else? I have a company called Art of Living that's one of the sponsors of the World Summit. And I think that I work in the alternative funding slice as well as the communications slice, and wherever else I'm called to go. So.
Yeah.
Not most of you already know me. I'm Tony. I've been doing this for just over 2.5 years now, and it's just great to see a whole bunch of you over here. Yeah, it's very exciting. Let's do this.
Yeah. Just a quick hello also to Grant, who came in. So happy to have you here. And yes, and Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hi. I'm a regenerative filmmaker and working closely with Indigenous communities. So hoping to bring a lot of tribes on board in the coming months to what you guys are doing and continue documenting everything. Actually, there's another girl on the call here, Gloria. I'm working closely with her. Still there, Gloria?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see you. I guess, can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I can't tell with all the screens moving, but it's so great to be here. I haven't met all of you, but I am so thankful to be on this call and for the World Summit to be organizing this, and for Robert, Tony, and Troy and JJ to be organizing everything with the World Summit. I work on so many different amazing projects that are helping the planet. I specifically focus on two main areas. So teaching thought consciousness to bring people back into the present moment as we are creating our new story of regeneration. And so getting people out of the past and the future, bringing us back into the now. And then also social organizations, and also reducing our impact on the planet. So the biggest thing that we can do is move from consumption to production. So really promoting these amazing places that I've been filming, like in Costa Rica, as there's over 100 impact centers that New Mundo has been mapping out There's so many centers around the world doing this. So just getting this media online and just flooding the media with all these positive, inspirational stories. And like, that's really how the change will happen, is through the media, through sharing, getting everyone's story.
Thank you, Gloria. Actually, if everyone can go through and just say real quick, just say your name, where you're from, maybe what group you're with, or just, we don't have time for everybody to give full bios, but if you could just say your name.
And we'll get to know each other a lot more in the near future. So,
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm Palmjit. Hi, I'm Palmjit. I'm the ambassador for the communities and culture and all of that stuff. So I enjoy working with various different types of groups of people to see how they can build something, co-create something together. So my kind of thing is all about co-creation, and I work very closely. Is Anais on here yet? She can speak for herself if she's here, but she does a lot of work around consciousness and spirituality as well. So.
Great. Thank you.
My name is Nathaniel. I'm from the US, originally Portland based. I just recently moved to Budapest with my girlfriend. And I'm not currently part of any organizations. This is the first one that I've really tried to push to join. But I think what the World Summit is trying to achieve is really amazing, and I want to be a part of it.
Thank you.
My name's Angelo. I live in New Jersey. I'm involved in the Diversity and Spirituality Network. And
Angelo, we're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you have a volume. Or...
Mic is a bit low.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, now I'm shouting. I don't know what the deal is, but in any event, my thing is diversity and spirituality. We have a network called the Diversity and Spirituality Network, and it's my first time interfacing with all of you. I don't really know. I'm kind of in a look-see basis, trying to see if there's something that I can do that's useful for me to do. And I have like about 20 minutes, so I'm not going to stay around long. So
okay.
I'm going to stay abreast as much as I can. See you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Tiana, and I've been working with the New Paradigm organizations, many different ones, for about 5 years, doing organizational leadership. Really, my place has been in the past to support the movement as a whole, and moving into a space, I'm very resonant with what the World Summit is doing, and plus I know some people that are involved with it, like JJ and Robert from the past. And as I am evolving and awakening in my own self and healing and clearing the conditioning, raising into a higher consciousness, my channels are opening further, and I'm really trying to stay right now in what's specifically in alignment with my truest self, and how I can communicate and facilitate the messages that come through me into the world in a productive way. And I feel that the World Summit has a platform for that, and I'm very excited to be involved here. So really thank those that have put this together, and it's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
I'll jump in while I'm in the gap. I'm Southwest UK, so Bristol's not too far away. I just thought I'd get that out before I forgot. I run a thing called Untied Nations, and it's really based on a community communicating system. So I'm not sure it has a place here, but it may have. Systems theory based. It tries to include, or tries to have a structure which doesn't preclude what I call the missing voices, which is so often the case in any group. It tends to self-select eventually. So that's the intention, but we'll see how it pans out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gaiton from South Africa, and as with everyone, we're all involved in so many different facets of all these things. In respect to myself here, I'm in a farming game and also in the property game, and we are effectively facilitating a bridging facility opportunity here with a site to be able to put in a facility that could be a bridging facility all around on the land and linked into the overall network. So as much as having worked over the last 10 years with the various different networks with JJ, Robert, etc., New Year's Nation, Global Sovereign Alliance, Ubuntu, there's a whole lot of different structures, but over the last year or so, I've been concentrating on the local community coming together in terms of having that same ethos and principle so that we can come back and link it into the overall global network. Yeah, and that time seems to be now. So there's a lot of bridging going on. Thank you guys from World Summit, and nice to meet various different role players working on this magnificent unraveling of ourselves coming together. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll jump in. Hello, this is Terry from Asheville, North Carolina, USA, where Hurricane Florence is about to give me all the rain I want and some more. And even though I live up in the Appalachian Mountains, it's big enough now to where we're going to be worried about it. In fact, that's why I'm late, and I apologize. We have massive flash flood backup outside of my offices here. So I got out good and wet. Well, I'm the chairman of Evolutionary Healer LLC, which is a governing body over global projects for repetitive behavior. I'm a Native American Indian and a veteran of the U.S. Navy. And my journey in life is world peace, and I'm as an activist. And I'm an environmentalist as well. I get my fingers in as much peace pie as I can. I believe when I saw something on the World Summit, it resonated with me. I go purely on vibration. So when I vibrate, I'm in. And I'm vibrating with this group before I met any of you. And what I've heard so far, it's been very encouraging. So this month for us, we are doing some things in the United States. September is Suicide Prevention Month. So that's a big thing about my for-profit company. We have something called repetitive behavior cellular regression, which is a question and answer sequence that stops the driving, repeating behaviors of suicide, PTSD, and a number of other things. And that's keeping us busy this month. And we have World Peace Day this year. And I don't know what we're going to do here with World Summit, but I'm excited to be part of this. And again, I'm sorry I came in late. So I'll go mute, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
Terry.
I guess I'll jump in. My name is Michael Jerica. I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina, also in projected line of the storm, although we're doing some work on that to see if we can't shift things to where it harmlessly goes to the North Atlantic. But I am part of a startup organization, a foundation called the Village of Light, and we're working with building community, both physical and virtual. And I'm also very attuned to things that are going on in the world, such as World Summit. When it crossed my radar, I had to see what was going on, so that's why I'm here. It totally resonates with everything that we've been working on, and so I'm very interested in how I can contribute to the overall. I'm kind of here on a look and see and hope that I can fit in somehow.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
I'm going to go next. I go by Destiny Faye. I was born in Australia, but I've been a nomad for 3.5 years, currently in Playa del Carmen. I am really grateful to everyone who's on the call, those who I have connected to and haven't met, and all in between. I've worked with many New Paradigm organizations over the last couple of years, and the ones that I helped co-create was the Inspire Unity Movement and New Earth, New You Now. I'm really grateful to be on this call and to connect to everyone and see what's being co-created. And I don't know if Josh wants to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. And I'm Josh Pasmore. I have Green Earth Vision that I've developed, and it's a whole systems design organization. And we're here in Playa del Carmen too, and looking forward to, my back is kind of hurting, so I might be right here stretching, but if you need me and you say, Josh, I'll be listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Sergey?
Can you hear me?
It's not my turn. Okay. Dennis, it's your turn.
It's okay if you want to go now. Denise will.
Denise, right, okay. Denise Brach, UK citizen at the moment. Just left my job, PA, event organizer, which is quite handy, and deciding to join World Summit in Playa del Carmen in October. I just been invited to join the newsletter team, so we're just getting the first newsletter together.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm in Egypt currently doing some spiritual work, channeling goddesses in temples.
Okay. Thanks. Sergey?
Finally, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thanks a lot to you having me here. Yes, I'm also really glad to see all of you here. Very interesting people come up in one place. Yes, you are trying to unite all of us here. You know, to be frank, I don't have to be here in Moscow now. I have to be in London, but because of borders, yes, and because of visas control, now I am here still. You know, guys, what I doing? I'm been engaged in a blockchain industry. I am public keynote speaker in various conferences all over the world, and I'm looking for also opportunity to be with you on your conference, to be something somehow helpful for you, maybe in IT, maybe in, I don't know, as a blockchainer, as advisor, as man who's conducting in a lot of ICOs worldwide. Now, yes, I'm looking for you. What are you doing? How do you doing? And how you are trying to unite each other with us in your place, maybe in Mexico, maybe in another place. We're so excited to look at that and trying to be helpful for you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There's a comment here from Alejandra Levy, who is with us from Mexico. I'm not sure if you're able to speak, Alejandra. She's from Zacatecas, Mexico. Can you talk?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, okay, perfect. Because I was trying to deal with this platform. Hi, everybody. Sorry, my camera is not working very well, either my internet. I hope that you can listen to me. Well, I'm an emotional coach, and I practice a lot of natural healing techniques. And I met these wonderful guys and a lot of wonderful people at the World Summit in January in Playa del Carmen. So since then, I've been attached to this whole movement.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And Alejandro was very involved in Mexican politics a few years back, and I think she's realizing that we need to bypass our fucked up systems to stay at tax free.
That's true. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro. There's anyone else? Otherwise, we should probably get moving on with our presentation. Anybody else want to say hi real quick?
I'll just step in real quick and say something for Nikki. She's at work right now. She's going to be, yeah, there she is waving. She can't talk because she's at work, but she's going to, she's partnered up with me to be a part of the activation team. So she's going to be helping with a lot of communications and getting these teams together.
That's great to hear, Nikki. Thank you so much.
Cool. Could Bruce just introduce himself? Have you just joined us, Bruce?
Yeah. I'm very glad. I just got the email with a Zoom link in it, just happened to check it and jumped on it immediately. I'm in Santa Barbara, California. I'm a database programmer, and I've been thinking about Unity projects for a long, long time, and have built a lot of different things. I have a background in interfaith, religion, and I'm actually looking for something that probably this unity, wholeness, oneness model at the core of social transformation is kind of the vision that I'm holding. I'm connected with a lot of different kinds of groups. I started out maybe with Conscious Evolution and Barbara Marx Hubbard. So now we're just kind of building database projects that find groups like this and see whether they can talk to each other and where is that useful. So I think there are a lot of groups that are thinking thoughts along the lines of let's have better unity, let's work together on climate change, plus many different motivations kind of dovetail. And this whole thing is just too big for anybody in particular. There's just too much going on. But if we can kind of spread it out, for example, you guys have, there's something that I'm dawning on is that your idea basically is don't try to challenge the existing system. I think Robert just said that maybe. And I myself am right in the heart of things. I think we got to change the existing system or it's going to blow us all up. So, but I don't want to get stuck on that issue. I want to stay in flow with people, different strokes for different folks. There's a lot of room. So if you're going to build an island of, idealistic coherence in Mexico, go for it. And that you can be a living example of what works. And then we can stay in unity, by things like this conference and, various ways of organizing ourselves. So I'm glad to see all these, bright faces and all, the guys the fact that you showed up is pretty interesting. You're here. So congratulations anyway to Robert, and thanks for checking out that making that Google Doc for us the other day, Robert. I really appreciate it. I showed it to Kavita, and we'll see where that goes. So thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I've got to say to everyone, it's great to see so many people out there, all with different backgrounds, all wanting the same thing. And that's exactly what we're looking for. Yeah, it's great to see you all here. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We've got a slideshow. Somebody wanted to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to introduce myself too.
Thank you.
And Rob's been staying with me in Peru, and so you guys came up on my radar through him, and I met him through my friends at Nomad who are in Mexico. And I'm also involved in a lot of different groups, and I don't really know yet. I'm just feeling into how we'll see what the future holds. But I feel, intrinsically with you in my heart. And my project here in Peru is to have, I have a place, it's kind of like a heart hub, which I expect people will be able to come and really, reconnect and with the earth and just take time off and relax. And also my background and my gifts are in group coherency. And I also work very in depth with the Gene Keys. I don't know if you know about them. And so there it is. Anyway, it's nice to see your faces, and it's just, there's so many different groups that are working for this emergence of who and what we truly are and what we can do on this planet. So we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Joe.
Sorry. Hi, guys. I just popped on a couple minutes ago as well. Quick introduction, Joe Colhane, based in Pacific Northwest, Portland. Currently, really passionate about telling better stories and collaborating with all of you. I'm part of the newsletter team. Pretty stoked about that. And just going to be here open and receiving all the wisdom we're all collaborating with, and it's happening. So thank you for being here, and I don't want to take up too much space or time because I know there's 6 people here all ready to move forward. So thanks, and hello to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's get the show on the
So
road.
yeah, so we're going to show a slideshow here, and we're asking if you can hold your questions to the end. And also, as part of that, we probably won't be addressing any questions that are posted in the chat here. It's just too distracting. I don't know if somebody else, any one of our delegates, wants to answer any questions as they come up, but we probably will be focused on the slideshow.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you, Richard. All right, so let me share my screen here. And if you guys can tell me if you can see that. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so this is an orientation meeting, but we're calling it Exponential Orientation because it's not just an introduction to the World Summit and getting you oriented with what we're about. We actually are hoping to shift all of our orientation a little bit to fully resonate and understand what we're about. And a major part of what the World Summit is about is this, that we are living in an exponential age right now, where things can happen faster and faster. And that we can actually flip this paradigm very, very soon, in as little as a year, maybe 2 years. So we're trying to shift our orientation to where anything is possible, right? And so let me go. How do I go through the slides here? Okay, so this is one brief take on that. If you're not familiar with exponential curves, just real briefly, it's if anything is growing at a constant rate every year or every period, then due to the compounding function, what happens, you end up with this hockey stick curve where, like growth of something or even something like deforestation or peak oil, right? So you have more and more consumption or growth over a period of time. But this also applies to rates of change as well. So things can happen faster and faster and faster. And if we just look back at, you may notice the date here is September 11th. Now, this is not getting into any theory about the Twin Towers attacks, but that was definitely a pivotal moment in our recent history. And so that was 17 years ago. 2011 was also a major pivotal time. Some people think that the Occupy Wall Street was a failure. I think it was a tip of the iceberg, as well as the Arab Spring, which was 7 years ago. We all know that 2016 was a major pivotal shift with the election of Trump in the US, and there's been a shift towards the right wing all around the world. So that's 2 years ago. And what are we talking about doing with the World Summit event is less than a year from now, in June of 2019. So if you look at that, you see that it's an accelerating timeline. And there's an environmentalist, Tom Atlee, who I always remember, said that things are getting better and better, worse and worse, faster and faster. And indeed, that's exactly where we find ourselves now. This is a slide that we've put together, some of our different delegates on the interim transition team, that I think speaks to this from a more positive perspective. We can look at all the bad shit that's happened around the world and say, clearly more and more bad shit's happening, but let's also pay attention to the good stuff that's happening, right? I mean, human rights, healthcare, this concept of welfare for all, right? Holistic health, permaculture, just a global consciousness, right? We are developing a global empathy, partly due to our technology or the internet, this Zoom call right here. And, climate awareness, inequality, indigenous rights, animal rights, on and on, right? and all the way up to now where we're recognizing that due to robotics and automation, that it's challenging our whole notion of work and jobs and labor for income. And that's radically going to displace millions of jobs around the world. So that in itself is going to require a radical new perspective on how we organize ourselves as a humanity. So, so we're in exponential times, and you see from that spiral, things are spiraling inward to what some might call a singularity. I've got my own perception of what singularity means, but it's not necessarily robots merging with humans. But we're getting into the singular point in history where things are speeding up faster and faster to a point where something's got to change. Either we break down or we break through to a higher level. We take a quantum leap to a new level. So that's what I think is going to happen. And so thank you all for being part of this call, because what this means is that you are part of this, this drop in the ocean right now that is going to reverberate out across the planet exponentially. So as we go from the less than 20 delegates that have been working with us since our mini summit in January in Mexico, now we're getting ready to exponentially double that. And we all know what happens when, you know, you add more and more people, and so that exponentially increases our rate of work that can be done, and our effectiveness, and our communication, and everything. So it's got a ripple effect that's just going to, we think, lead us to this exponentially soon flipping of the paradigm. And you also see this on our website. I mean, what, a year ago, there was a handful of dots on our borderless member map on our website. And now we've got cafes and synergy hubs and people joining us all over the world now. It's pretty exciting. So kind of the theme of this, if we're going to have a theme of this meeting today, I think it's about taking it to the next level, which is, we have been thinking differently within the World Summit. We try to think differently about everything. And so now we've got to start being different and doing things different. And so if we're going to flip the paradigm, that almost inherently means that we've got to do everything differently. And so we've been told in the past that some of our ideas are not that different. And well, if that's true, then call us out on it, because we need to do everything differently. And if we're not being different enough, then we've got our work cut out for us. So here, that gets to, I love this quote by Steve Jobs. This was in an advertising campaign for Apple in, what, 97 or something. And so I love this quote, but also have some major problems with it. So let me just, I'm going to let everybody read it. So just let's take a minute here just to read this and absorb it, and then we'll come back. How are we doing? Okay. So let's focus in on the last sentence, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So everybody on this call is crazy or crazy smart. And we're crazy enough to think that we can change the world, and therefore we will. So that's brilliant. I love this. However, let's take a look at Apple Computer, and I think we all have recognized there's some problems with their business model, whether it's their Foxconn manufacturing in China, or workers are committing suicide, or the unsustainable nature of their phones. You can't even change the batteries in them. They want us to buy new ones every year. However, let's recognize that it has been revolutionary in one aspect. It's part of the global brain, right? global consciousness, part of, with their computers and the internet and now smartphones. And so it's enabled a lot of great things. But if we are to take a whole systems perspective, then there's some inherent problems with that, right? So I would argue that their thinking was different, but their being was not different, right? They envisioned all these great global centric things, but they externalized harm, and still are, to the environment and to people around the world. So is that a sustainable model? So if we look at being different, so we go beyond thinking different, we actually have to be different. And I love this quote by Daniel Schmachtenberger. If you're familiar with him, there's a great podcast called Future Thinkers. You can catch several of his interviews on there. But this sums it up. Well, go ahead, I'll let you read it again. So what this means is, if we take a look at this from the perspective of game theory, our entire socioeconomic system is nothing more than a monopoly game. It's a win-lose game, one that's rivalrous, it's inherently competitive and rivalrous, and zero-sum. So what that means is for many millennials now, we've been living under this win-lose game, and now at this globally connected scale, to continue to play that game where some people win and some people lose, it's ultimately going to be self-terminating, which means it's omni lose-lose for everybody. Omni just means everything and everybody everywhere. So it's something that we have to recognize, that the root cause of so many of our problems is this win-lose dynamic that we've got to transcend. Richard, I know, I love you. Richard Osmundson in New Zealand's got some beautiful thoughts on this. Did you want to add something to that, Richard?
Yeah, sure, Troy. Just very briefly, I won't stop your flow there. Yeah, this win-lose phenomenon comes up all the time when we're talking to people in the street, which is our speciality, really, is taking this to new people. And everyone anticipates a change as involving winners and losers. And of course, there's a good reason for that, because historically, every social change that there's ever been, every revolution, every development has always involved some winners and some losers. And the transition that we're now looking at doesn't have any losers. It's only winners. Whereas continue on the existing path has only losers. You know, it's quite massive in that. And if somebody, as we still find, there's a few of them left for sure, the odd dinosaur, some people think they're going to be worse off after this shift, but it's only because they don't understand the scale of what we're talking about. What we're doing produces only winners, and that's massively different from anything that's ever happened in the past. That's totally unprecedented. And of course, it makes it a great product to be out there promoting, because there's never been anything like this before. So it's very, very exciting. Yeah. Thank you, Troy.
Yes. Thanks, Richard. And hopefully that will allay some of the fear. So many people are just downright fearful of the future of what we're pointing to. We need to be afraid of what the hell we have right now. This is scary shit, what we're living in now. So I think, I don't think it has to be that scary, and I don't think it's going to be that painful, frankly. But okay, let's move on. Thanks, Richard. So if we're thinking different and we want to be different, and then it's time to start doing different. And we know that there's all these great movements and protest groups and NGOs and charities and all these groups doing great stuff around the world. What could be called the blessed unrest by Paul Hawkins, who talked about this is the greatest social and environmental movement of all time. But that book was written 10 years ago, and you got to ask yourself, okay, what's happened since then? The fact is, they never unified. All those groups never came together and unified and started working together. So if we're talking about doing things differently, we're doing it right now by unifying these different groups and starting to work together. And Tony, you had, if we're talking game theory here and games, what you had a thought about this?
Yes, I call it the winning hand. I like to play a game of poker once in a while, and if you have a winning hand, you just have a winning hand, and it's just unbeatable. With that, we together hold that winning hand. We just need to put that hand together, like all the puzzle pieces that people talk about. But with this winning hand, everybody wins, and something that Richard explained. It becomes a win-win situation. It's just going to be a bit scary for some people on how do they handle this change. But that's something we can talk about in a minute when we go through the slices.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So, you know, I'm reminded of the author and activist Charles Eisenstein, who I think really gets it. And, you know, he talks about how what the sense of urgency that we find ourselves in right now is that nothing less than a miracle is needed to heal our world. But what we're talking about here is that a miracle sounds impossible, and it actually can be impossible from our existing paradigm. But from a new paradigm, it's completely possible, right? And Tony threw this one in there for the Trekkies out there. Nothing is impossible, only improbable, from Mr. Spock. So, yeah, what the hell, what are we doing, man? What we're talking about doing, unifying all of humanity, is incredibly bold and audacious. So who the hell are we to say we could pull this off? From my business experience and some of the, you know, following some of the, what we would consider to be very successful people out there like Elon Musk, et cetera, the more bold that something is, ironically, can be more achievable because nobody else tries to do it. But those that actually go for it can actually pull it off. So that's what we think the dynamic is with the World Summit. All right, so you've probably all already been exposed to this, so let's talk about what makes the World Summit different. And again, if you see something here that you think is not different, or we're not different enough, tell us, because we got work to do. So this is an acronym that's not really an acronym, because unless we're making up our own words, PTISBA, which actually we think is kind of cool, because, you know, an acronym is supposed to be a word that exists, that stands for something, right? So what is it? What the hell is a PTISBA? But do we really need permission to create our own word and call it an acronym, right? So so the P is permission. We don't need permission. We are not asking permission from any of our leaders or governments or corporations. Table, we're not fighting to get a seat at the table. We're creating a whole new table. Symptoms, we recognize that almost all of the protest groups and environmental groups and NGOs are fighting symptoms. Nobody's really addressing the root cause, which is our political and economic systems themselves. So if we recognize all of those previous items, then we truly can start bypassing our existing systems and unify ourselves. Status quo. So questions, we don't claim to have all the answers, but we are asking the right questions. And we've already hinted about the urgency. Our house is on fire, so let's put aside our differences and get to work. And oneness, this is unity consciousness, whatever you want to call it, but recognizing that we are one species, one humanity, and we better start acting like one and thinking like one and being one. So, and coming together in one event, the World Summit event itself. Okay, so what makes the World Summit different? Cracking the code. I'm going to let Robert chime in here on this.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that we reached this point in history that we really are able to connect with all kinds of tools, social media platforms. And maybe someone needs to mute their
Can everyone mute their microphones,
yeah.
please?
Christopher Brown, please mute. Christopher Brown, please mute.
I think we can mute it ourselves.
Okay, we're going to mute everyone here if we can figure it out. How do we do it? Somebody's still got their speaker on.
Christopher Brown, can you please mute Christopher Brown?
Yep. Yeah. That's
okay.
the one.
All right,
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all. Okay, let's.
Yeah. Just no, we one back, I think. Yeah. So basically, we're now in this point in history, come together, figuring out how to unify and align best. We'll talk a little bit about it more later, but it's for me, it feels like we are here to figure it out in a way that we reach a level of consciousness that we sort of can step back and take a look at the solutions we have from a distance, and being able to sort of oversee why we have been doing the last decades and last couple of hundreds of years and centuries even, that we run around in dogmatic circles. And I think we're about to ready that we sort of get it, that we are here to crack this code, and that we can bring in a lot of examples which makes a new paradigm possible, and not with all kind of complicated processes or ideas, but really in a simple way even. So I think this is really the most exciting thing, that if we can crack this code now, then we can make a huge step in history.
Thanks, Robert. Tony, you want to talk to this one? Is that right?
Yeah, I can do. I think I just read it out quickly. World Summit is just not another group. It's not even an entity. It is a bunch of people coming together and organizing to facilitate the World Summit event, and asking the groups on how they can unite best and how they align best. We also need everybody to create a interim transition team. Why is it called the interim transition team? Because everybody that is here, they have their own ideas on how we could transcend into a new paradigm. However, when the paradigm starts to shift, we do need to accommodate that little bit, what I call in between, which is the interim transition. That's something that works for everyone, because we cannot expect one day on the other day that the whole thing has been flipped. It will go gradually after that. The whole flipping of the paradigm is the shifting of the governing bodies to a self-governing body. If I look a bit further down the bottom, it says about the critical mass. We already have the critical mass. The only thing is we are not connected yet. There are some people that are still very much concentrated on their own project and feel that is taken a kind of a priority. However, if you put all that knowledge together from everybody here, then all those projects will all fall into place after the paradigm has shifted. But in between that time, we do need to get together and work this out together. Yeah, the World Summit again. It's not a new. It's not another form of organization that says you guys got to follow us. The World Summit is just a label. It's actually the groups that are in there that is the World Summit. So everybody has a voice, everybody can speak. But we're not trying to recreate the wheel. a lot of wheels have been created already. We created a pizza because we thought everybody might be hungry. So yeah, it was time to get everybody fed and start working together. Let's get them all onto this new dining table. What we are asking is for the groups and individuals to dedicate some time to work with all the other groups. However, they do keep their own identity and their beliefs intact. However, if we can just focus and be purpose-driven just to that one point, we can sort this out together a lot quicker.
Thanks, Tony. Who wants to talk to this?
Well, you've talked enough anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Go for it. Go for it.
We'll know that the way we are is not sustainable. Each one group on their own will not make that much of a difference. They are great examples, don't get me wrong. However, now it's time that we shift our focus on the one thing, and that is getting together and cross-pollinate that wisdom and knowledge that we have. We need to be purpose-driven on the one thing, and it's concentrating on flipping the paradigm so we can all start transcending our own ways. But before that, we have to sort out that little bit in the middle again. To do this, we need to set aside our differences. We might have to maybe put some things on the backfire or the back burner, as they call it, and just work this out, because we can do it.
Yeah, it's a lot has to do also with healing processes. I think that everyone went through his personal life journey here and experienced a lot of joy and a lot of excitement, but also suffering. And I think the suffering part is something that all binds us, and we all understand what it means to be suffering, whether it's directly or indirectly. Basically, a human being is an altruistic and a social human being, and at the moment we experience that we are sort of forced into a competitive model, and this gives a lot of stress and dis-ease. And yeah, I think we all come to the conclusion that this is something we just don't want, and we don't need it anymore. And it opens up a lot of new perspectives to step into the new paradigm. So acknowledging the suffering is an important aspect of the healing process.
Yeah, and Robert, I just want to add to that, I mean, what I see is that there's so many people in this world that are beating themselves up, or, you know, saying they're blaming themselves for not working harder, getting the right education, or, you know, bullshit. It's our system that is the problem, and we need to start shifting the focus from ourselves to the system itself that causes so many of these problems. Life is not meant to be such a struggle. Why are we the only creature that has to earn a living to exist on this planet? So, yeah, so I get that. So, yeah, I think what we're acknowledging here is that there's a lot of healing that needs to happen, that needs to take place, and that is part of the transition. But I think that once we recognize what the World Summit is trying to achieve, and we see that it's possible, and we start moving towards that, a lot of healing starts happening right away. And do you want to talk about the last one?
I'd like to say so. I know I'm sitting all the way in the back and look like a little troll there. But the whole thing is with everybody here as well. We have some great examples out here that people don't even know about. And this is so important also of this healing process, that these things are being recognized by people, that there are so many groups out there, so many individuals that have these wonderful ideas, plans. Envienta, for example, has a whole model on how they can live self-sustained, quite high-tech, to the permaculture, and some people are just not aware of it, and now it's time that we not just raise that awareness, but we also can kind of implement that awareness by showing all these examples, making the suffering a lot less. Yeah. So, and this is how we take care of of the people when we transition from the one model to another model, because they can see how the future can look like. It's not like it's all a pipe dream. No, this is actual things that are already in existence. This is tangible. And with that, we don't leave anybody behind.
Yeah, and this is has already started the process, because we are here, right? And all these movements, they are very real and active. And this is also where the interim transition team will play a big part in the whole process, because we have to figure out together what is the best way to take care of people, and what is the best way to step into the new paradigm. We don't have to have all the answers. We know that they are in the field. We have our collective wisdom, and it's up to us to bring it to the next level. And yes, nobody left behind. It's all inclusive.
Well, and that's what we've been doing for the last 7 months, is figuring out, you know, from our meeting here in Mexico in January, is figuring out how to work together. And we're still learning of new models and dynamics and processes and alignment principles and all this on how to work together. But the point is, we work through our shit. We, you know, if there's disagreements or anything, we stay purpose driven. Anything that is disunifying sort of falls to the side, right? And then that keeps us moving forward, while also, you know, not leaving anybody behind, because we regroup, we come through issues stronger afterwards. So here's several little points in this slide that are some concepts that you probably haven't seen on our website or in any of our documents, but these are some sort of unwritten concepts, I guess, that we've been tossing around. For the sake of the whole is actually kind of a spiritual concept. When we engage with something that's greater than ourselves, something as big as the whole world's problems, and trying to evolve all of humanity, that's freaking huge, right? But, you know, in sort of a liberating sense, it can take us out of our own ego identification and our own issues, and maybe some of our own stuff just sort of falls away in triviality a little bit. And what that also does is energizes us and empowers us to keep going, to not burn out. So that, for the sake of the whole, is pretty powerful. And so we always kind of throw it around there that the World Summit is bigger than any one of us, right? So, and if we do that and sort of tap on our egos a little bit and keep us in check, when we realize that, you know, if Tony gets hit by a bus, or Robert or myself, or anything happens to any one of us, then what we were creating here keeps going, right? And I skipped over the first bullet point there, which is simplicity. I like the quote that, you know, somebody said that, you know, there's simplicity on the other side of complexity. And I think as humans, we have a tendency to overcomplicate things and make things so much more difficult than they need to be. What we're talking about with the World Summit is actually quite simple. And so we don't necessarily need these grand meta architectures and all this technology. I mean, certainly a lot of it's helpful and will be part of the puzzle, but in the very basic analysis, there's nothing very, very complex or complicated about what we're trying to achieve here. So that little bit in the middle, Tony, did you already?
Yeah, I've already touched on that little bit in the middle.
Okay.
It kind of leads straight into the being all in. Sometimes people think that they still always have a reserve behind them in case it doesn't work. It does need all our beliefs in that we can do it. Only then really can we move forward. We can't be still sitting on the fence. We can't keep talking about it. It's now time for doing it and getting it done. And we can. We look at all the people here at the moment, put all these brains together. What we come up with is absolutely amazing, and something that we can implement as well and pass on to reach this whole critical mass.
Yeah, that sort of what also fits into that is this sense of urgency that we have. urgency not coming from fear, but from empowerment, that we really can flip this paradigm very soon, in a year or two. And when we think about that timeline, the very near timeline, that can potentially change our priorities and change what we focus on. I've written an essay about the next evolution for eco-villages, and that sort of points to that, how, you know, all these different groups are working on their own projects where, of course, well-meaning and sustainable in their own right, but they're all sort of competing against each other for the same charity dollars, and their timelines are, you know, long and far out. It could be 5, 10, 15 years. They can't even build them yet until they raise enough money. So what if we tell you that we can flip this paradigm in a year or two? Then do you go out and, I don't know, start that business or invest in that real estate or start this test experimental project when we, you know, maybe all that sort of falls away if we can actually flip the paradigm very, very soon. And as Tony said before, all that other stuff that we're working on can sort of take care of itself and will fall into place. And then the last point here, of course, is that we want to create an omni-win-win situation for everybody where we are not externalizing harm to our planet, to our animals, to other people. Okay, so the gift economy is, we're very big about the gift economy. And as Tony always says, you know, these are all just labels. We can call it a resource-based economy, a gift economy. We can call it, didn't you call it something else? Anyway.
Energy.
Energy, yeah, you name it, right? I mean, there's everything that we're talking about are labels, so we shouldn't get hung up in semantics. But certainly the gift economy is in Wikipedia. You'll find it discussed there. Authors like Charles Eisenstein have talked at length about this in their book, like Sacred Economics. It's not a new concept. It's a very, very old concept. In fact, it forms the oldest and most successful economy in human history. Humans, Homo sapiens, go back 200,000 years, modern humans. Our modern concepts of money and ownership and debt go back 5,000 years, at most 10,000 years. If you do the math on that, that's over 95% of our existence have we had this current system, yet we tend to think it's always been with us and always will be. Actually, no, that's a myth. We've had gift economies with our indigenous hunter-gatherer tribal societies that worked quite successfully. Now we're talking about scaling it up to all of humanity. So in a nutshell, the gifting economy is just about doing things for each other without expecting anything in return, without any I can never say that word, reciprocal exchange.
Yeah, I
would
like to bring in that on a personal level. I come from a very big family, so I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers. I'm in the middle, but as a family, we sort of, well, there's a lot of stuff to organize, you know, and a lot of things my parents could not take care of by themselves. So we all try to chip in, and there are really no conditions for it. You just do these things because you do it for family, and you all understand that you have some certain responsibility to take care of something in the household. So yeah, this is what I think we all can recognize.
So yeah, it's unconditional, where, you know, we just do stuff without attaching any conditions to it. Sorry, we've got some construction here. Maybe you can ask them to hold off. Okay, so there's this concept, you know, ancient tribal societies were leavers, right? They left the world as it was and took only what they needed. They took very little, but basically left it as it was. And there's some authors that have written about this, like Daniel Quinn, I think, talking about taker society or taker cultures. that came along, like the conquistadors and the colonists and all that, and started taking stuff, right? So now we're entering into what we think is the gifting culture, or what we're trying to bring back or recreate, where not only do we leave things as we are, because we've imposed a lot of damage on our environment, that now we need to go beyond just leaving. We need to be regenerative. So when we give, gifting culture is inherently regenerative. We give back to it and make it better. And the last concept here is that, you know, I think one of the biggest problems that we have is this notion of exchange, that we have to exchange something for something else. I have to give you something and you have to give me something in return. And that's very problematic. And I think that we are going to evolve beyond that. And when we do, we realize that this exchange model, whether it's money or Bitcoin or cowrie shells, it doesn't matter. But that is limiting, it's finite. It's usually based on scarcity. And when we talk about gifting, it's based on abundance, and it's unlimited, and it creates infinite possibilities. I'm convinced that we don't have enough money in all the world to solve some of our problems, like climate change or deforestation or species loss or ocean acidification, because money is the problem. But if we take money off the table and we bring back a gifting culture, a gifting society, and we ask ourselves, do we have the resources? Do we have the technology? Do we have the knowledge and the wisdom? Then absolutely, we have the ability to address and solve all of those problems. Okay, so now we're going to go through the peer-to-peer GBI system very quickly. You may have heard about the unified Patreon platform that's supporting our GBC system, which is gift-based income. We've had several delegates now for close to a year that have been receiving a GBI on a monthly basis to meet their basic needs, to free them up from working bullshit jobs so they can come and work, focus their energy and their efforts on working for the World Summit.
Sorry, I got to interrupt. It's not working for the World Summit. It's kind of working for your own groups with all the other groups, hand in hand with the World Summit. But what I would like to see is with everybody that is coming on board and is gifting their time, if they need some kind of contribution, because they can then focus more on working together with all the other groups and the World Summit. We put a GBI in place, which is normally capped at about $1,100. So it kind of keeps it decentralized. It's not really corruptible. People can't really run off with it. And if they do, it's not like we've lost hundreds of thousands. World Summit itself doesn't have a bank account. Do you mind if I can?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. World Summit doesn't have a bank account, as it doesn't register as an NGO or an MPO. Most of you know that already has been explained, because we don't want to be part of the old system. So this is part of us bypassing it. So we're bypassing the existing economic and political systems that way. We don't need the banks. Unfortunately, as individuals, we do. We do have to, with these GBIs, we have to use a bank account, otherwise we can't sustain ourselves, but it's only for a short period of time. The power of the individuals, over $400 billion was gifted to charities in America last year. 80% of that came from individuals, and it's still asking, they are still asking for more money for next year. So obviously addressing the symptoms is not working, so it's now time for us to buckle up together and start working on this and make sure that we would only need a fraction of that to change this whole paradigm.
Yep. And I feel like this presentation is getting a little long here, so we'll try to speed through this. Bear with us. So that's the unified Patreon platform that we're creating. Patreon's a trusted, established network, a platform that's about providing recurring revenue streams so people don't have to go work bullshit jobs. And we may be open to something else as it presents itself, but that's what we're building now. And
I can
yes,
maybe add something to it as well. Like Troy says, you know, it's about getting people off their jobs, what they're doing now, and into something that we can work on together. It will be very important because Robert and myself, we get a GBI. It allows us to work full-time on the World Summit, 7 days a week if we wanted to. Now, we don't do 7 days a week because it would drive us nuts and we'll burn out. But this is what we're trying to get with everybody as well. If people need some kind of support because they can work part-time, or they might even want to work full-time with all the other groups and with the World Summit together.
So the thing with the UPP is that it is decentralized and distributed, and it actually shows that we are unifying by having all these individuals come together under the World Summit umbrella, and we crowdfund from the 400, even if we just had a fraction of that 400 billion that's donated to charities every year. Wow, what difference that would make. So this is just, we're working on this now, we're developing it, but we're gonna have this platform that will show all the delegates working with us and where they are towards their $1,100 US per month. And the more delegates we get, the more this shows potential gifters that this is working, and that so it's going to feed on itself and be self-propagating. So, all right, so we're going to move in now. We're just going to skim over this, but we've created some maybe kind of hybrid approaches to self-organizing based on proven methodologies like sociocracy and holacracy that are non-hierarchical and decentralized. Tony is going to talk about our famous pizza.
Yes, I'm going to keep it short and brief. As you can see, there's 7 slices. We've got communication, marketing, and PR. We've got outreach. We've got 3 cafe and synergy network, World Summit events, technology and governance, alternative funding, and interim transition. The core team is what we are all. We are the core team, all of us here together now. And we need the jobs filled within these slices and work together on how we can create the World Summit event quickly. How do we get more people on board by physically reaching out? How to get further with the synergy networks, etc., etc. So there's a few things that we probably have highlighted what we're doing and what is taking priority now. And this is something that we really need your help with by working it out together so we can move forward. The interim transition is something that needs to be filled with different job roles, from a new self-governing system, risk assessment and a peaceful handover, technology and governance, sociocracy and holacracy, database, etc. Well, you get the gist of it. And also we need to expand the outreach team in, well, Mexico, it could be anywhere in the world, to start reaching out to more groups and more individuals. And now, especially when we started to get close to our event, we need to start inviting the people that need to be invited.
And let me add something. So we're creating a peer-to-peer funding, alternative funding mechanism with our unified Patreon platform. This pizza pie is itself peer-to-peer. And so we're interconnecting with all the different groups. So this is an example of how we use peer-to-peer self-organization. Tony, talk about this.
Yeah, can do. This shows that each slice is populated by individuals from groups, etc., etc. Everything is being fed into the core team, and the core team is, well, that's us, because as we grow bigger, these slices are going to be bigger as well, and we can't have everybody on a Zoom call, so we have to have 2 people representing that slice to come into the core team and discuss what has happened. All that information is being spread out then to each and every individual that is attached to not just the World Summit, but also of all the other groups that are out there, from United Earth to Ubuntu to Ambienta, you name it. All that information is then spread out. All that information will also have questions or comments that will be fed back into the middle, and that's being spread out to the slices again.
Did we, okay, and here's just the GBI system, how that works. And this notion that we, again, coming back to the exponential function, and how as we add more and more delegates, that it significantly grows our hours that we can contribute to working on this, and then it keeps growing from there. Did we want to have some of our delegates working on these different slices talk, or is that maybe it's a little too long at this point?
I think that by the end of this, you're probably all sick and tired of listening to us, but you probably have kind of made up your mind on where you feel that you probably, where the skills are most needed. That this is why it's like an introduction and an orientation meeting, so you can all see what we have on offer and what things need to be addressed soon.
We were going to have, you know, one delegate from each of these slices give a little statement about what they do in their slice, but I'm feeling like this is running a little long, and maybe we don't.
And there is the overall pizza slice where I think
previous
a few back where you can see that one, this one. So here you can see what all the roles are, and I think we all already have sort of an awareness for most delegates here in the Unity Core Team meeting in which slice we can bring in our gifts. So I think the next phase will be actually getting there and getting access to all the documents, and
obviously, we will share this this presentation with everyone, so you can refer back to it.
Thanks.
Okay, so talk about this, Robert.
Yeah, well, we have World Summit Dynamic Timeline, so I think everybody has seen it already. But if we share the presentation, we can, well, you can find the link there and you can check it out again. This is the vision and the plan we have. We're very happy with it. Of course, some things will perhaps change organically, but basically this is about where we're now at. We're onboarding the new team members, and we're revamping the Summit, World Summit core team. So for next month, we want to upscale the outreach team from 10 to 50 to 100 members. And this is really also a crucial point when we can come together in a synergy hub, whether it's here in Playa del Carmen or somewhere else, doesn't really matter that much. I think it's important to have a physical place that we can really start organizing more efficiently. We want to manifest in November a mapping team. I think there are already some beautiful examples about like Bruce Schumann's Transform the System project that are already mapping for several years, these groups. We want to extend that. We want also to focus on the 12 sectors, because this is where all the solutions are. We show a little bit more about it later, how we sort of envision the event itself. And when we come to January, we sort of should have figured out where to have the final location of the main event. So that's that part. Then we're going into the next phase, manifesting the interim transition team. Here is where we will find already a balance between all the solutions. We will sort of take a period that we adapt to the situation. We will gain momentum. We'll take a time out just for a month or a few weeks to review and reflect. We also can make some steps that are connected to another group of Josh Passmore to come to agreements. And then we have the main event with the focus on how to unify and align best, find it out together, and how to step into the new paradigm best. So the flip over, this will be interesting. Nobody will know what happened, of course, but we'll have the feedback loops. And after that, there will be an incubation phase to sort of adapt to the new situation and give a lot of people support on that. In a nutshell, that was the timeline, but you can all check it out for yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so we're back here to the slideshow. And so...
Yeah, how do we sort of envision the main event? Well, we discussed the main focus, right? What we want to do. And if you bring it back, like we have 12 sectors of society with all these great active groups and solutions there and all this knowledge. Well, we want to connect them, and you can see the interim transition team in the middle, where all these ideas will be brought in, and with a feedback loop, we will sort of figure out if we come up with one solution in one sector, what the effect is on the other sectors. So we just foresee that we have 12 domes, and we have a center in the middle, a core center, where we constantly connect with each other and give feedback towards each other. So that's, we already talked to a group who is sort of figuring out how to create these domes, so that's very interesting. I think that's maybe enough for now as an impression, yeah.
And do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, what we always do in the body talks, that we give an overview. We use a Prezi, and I can ask JJ if he feels like telling something more about it, but I think it's okay. We just show the steps, every element and every aspect that is connected to the World Summit. So you can find it on the Prezi, and we will share the link with all of you if you haven't already got it so far. So.
If I may interrupt, for people that are going to work within the outreach team, this will be very important, because this is what we use to do the whole onboarding. So if anybody else wants to onboard people as well, this is kind of a guide to onboarding.
Yeah, so all these tools will be made available to everyone. So here we are, you know, people we think will self-select either to work with the World Summit or not, and that's okay. And they will self-select which slices they want to work in. And I know in January at our mini summit, we all chose like 3 different slices to work in, and maybe that's a little too much. So, however, you do get a broad overview of the entire organization that way. And it's okay to dip in and out of different slices too.
Yeah.
So we have a Google document where people can go and check out the roles and responsibilities that we've documented as part of Holacracy. And so these are not actually positions, so to speak, as much as they are roles that need to be filled. So please let us know where you're called. And Tony.
Well, this is it, guys. You know, the last slide, thank God. It's, as you all know, I use this metaphor, and I'd like to tell you about it. If our house is on fire and children are inside, then wouldn't we drop all our differences and grab buckets and pass those buckets of water to douse the fire? Even if our worst enemy would stand next to us, we would still take that bucket of water on, because at that moment in time, there's something bigger happening than the personal issues that we might have between each other, or the beliefs, or whatever it might be. And this is what the World Summit is asking from everyone as well. If we can just for a moment in time, it's probably less than 12 months, just put our differences aside and put all our focus into the purpose of changing this paradigm and creating an interim transition that works for everyone, that will be absolutely marvelous. It would help out a lot, but not just, it helps out everybody. Each and everyone's group that they are attached to will benefit from that as well, because everything will move a lot quicker, because the abundance will be there. Right.
Okay. Well,
thanks for bearing with us there.
I can see a lot of chat messages. Maybe Richard, you want to narrate us through it a bit, or?
Oh yeah, no, it's all good. It's just a whole bunch of, of course it brings up all kinds of things from people's personal situations and from the, the research they've done. So it's not specifically questions about what you guys have been doing. It's just some sort of other relevant material, but we've got to stay focused on your presentation for right now. So no, but it's generating lots of activity out there. Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, great job, guys. Well done. Thank you.
So how do we proceed? Should we just, are there questions in the chat that we should go in order, or how do you, it's up to you guys.
No, not really. I think there's so much to absorb at the moment. Everyone probably needs to have a little respite.
I think it might be an idea to actually open it up to a few questions.
I'm not sure, was this presentation in the shared orientation Google Drive, or is it somewhere else?
It's somewhere else, yeah. Okay. It's in the, we'll give you guys access to the whole Google Drive for World Summit, and I think it's under the mini summits for whatever reason.
Okay.
I have a question. Is it okay to ask?
Please.
Can you clarify the difference between free cafes, synergy hubs, and domes?
Yes.
How about we let Lisa?
Well, Lisa, if you want to tell a little bit about the free cafes, that's also fine.
Yes, well, the free cafe, the idea started a year and a half ago, and it's to make known the World Summit group to the local place everywhere in the world. And help the local place too to help each other. But more we think of it, it's became we think to do it as a satellite everywhere in the world because we cannot invite everybody at the main event. So if we do satellite everywhere in the world, everybody could be in it. So it's the main purpose. And the World Summit Cafe, it's not a retail place. It's like the one we did, I have in my home in Playa del Carmen last winter. It was in my apartment. And I invite people every second week or so to come and talk about the local problem at the time, and to talk about the World Summit, to bring new ideas. So just invite people, and it's free for everybody. It's a free cafe. So we share things, we do potluck, and we talk about what we could do. So, and like I say, more than that, now we think they have to be satellite to share the World Summit ideas and to prepare for the World Summit event in next June.
What about the synergy hubs and domes?
Well, the synergy
That's
hubs,
Robert. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The synergy hubs are actually locations, buildings where change makers and groups who work on similar projects can come together and actually co-live and co-create and co-work together. So we are looking for a location now in Playa because we feel it's an important next step to come together. And so we can work more efficiently. The dynamics change when you are present in one room with teams. So I will try to talk a little bit louder because of the drilling here. So, but yeah, so the Synergy Hub networks, it's meant to be for all change makers. That we can travel freely between them. We connected with a couple of networks already. Nest Co-working here in Playa. We're connected to the Free World Network, the CoWio network. There is a group in England we're connected with. So I think it's a great way for us to use this platform, these networks, and connect them as well as to the main event that we have, where the location will be in Iceland or somewhere else. We'll figure it out. But also globally with the satellite locations.
So do they have a link? Do they have a link with free cafes? They're like a strategic version with a building of what the free cafe is trying to do.
Well, we have now 10 potential free cafes that are active, but we have to reactivate them. So that's the next step. that we'll plan a meeting, I think, with the activation team, and also to map them out fully on the CoEO platform.
Okay, and the domes?
I'll elaborate on that because I think that we misunderstood.
Yeah, the domes are not here yet.
No, the domes, we actually spoke to someone, Rock, I've forgotten his surname, but he has a potential place to hold the event. Now, the domes are actually tents. These are big tents that can hold up to 100 people. That's where we're talking about having potential at the event, 12 domes, each representing a part of the, what is that thing?
What? The wheel of co-creation.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
12 sectors.
The 12 sectors, that's, I know about the 12 sectors. So, and that is linked in, but this is just for the event. It's not like some kind of, yeah.
Okay, and I don't really understand the relationship between the 12 sectors and the pizza.
Right.
Well, I think the pizza
Is that just the interim transition part of the pizza?
Yes.
Well, it is, but at the other end, the pizza is more how we organize within the Unity core team. So with the different teams, how do we, because we also have a strategy team set up, which we will also activate very soon. And this is to find out how we organize for the World Summit between now and June next year. When we take a look at the 12 sectors, then we are taking a look at how are we going to come up with a new model best. So that's another frame that we will be working in. We will be zooming out more on things.
The notion is that, you know, there's all these different groups around the world that have their own 12 sectors. They're kind of reusing Barbara Marx Hubbard's wheel of co-creation, right? And all these groups are sort of recreating the wheel, so to speak, and approaching those 12 sectors from their own perspective, which is great. But as Tony said before, what if we got all these different wheels under the cart and the cart's heading in the same direction, right? So the pizza is not about recreating the wheel. It's about creating the event itself. The sole purpose of our pizza pie is to organize just to unify enough to create the event itself.
Yeah, and the 12 sectors is something that does need to be addressed in the interim transition. Obviously, there's 7.5 billion people out there that need catching. And we need to make some good decisions on those sectors on how can we accommodate for all these people that are coming this way, because it's going to happen. Then after that, when that has happened, that little bit in between, the interim, then everybody can transcend however they want to, as long as it's in the space of you know, sustainability, and let's try to have access to each other without any animosity.
Okay.
So the strategy team would sit between the 12 sectors and the interim transition.
Sorry?
The strategy team.
Yeah.
Do you see them sitting in between the 12 sectors, like all of that stuff that's going on in the communities, and where that relates to the interim transition in your pizza?
The strategy team is mainly focusing on how do we, within the World Summit, Unity core team organize best. So also within the separate pizza slices teams. So I think the interim transition has another focus, really. I think I'm repeating myself probably,
well,
but yeah.
You can kind of compare the interim transition with the actual event itself. There is a lot of things being discussed because we do need to have a plan into place before we flip the paradigm.
I think it's really important. I think that's the kind of, what do you call it, like the pulse, isn't it? That's where everything's happening. So that's where you're getting your feedback about what's working and what's happening, and so what's actually going to...
Exactly. That slice will be kind of populated with the experts in their chosen fields, kind of, from representing the 12 sectors
We should
the rest
probably-
of the pizza is all to do with the creation of the World Summit event itself.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to explain the way I saw the pizza me at the first time. Maybe it's going to be very simple, and the way it's working since the mini summit in January. Every week, each slice or so have a meeting together, and the purpose too of this reunion tonight is to make you people decide in which sector you feel like you are in the better place to work. And like they say, the transition and the big event, the big event, it's a slice, it's a one slice too. Like the mini cafe, like the communication. So, and what we did since last spring, we have a meeting, each slice have a meeting, I have 4 or 5 people on it, and they work on each slice to make it go forward. And I don't know if I'm clear, but it's very simple. It's why we need people now to make grow every slice. And I think this is a very important part to understand the pizza, to understand every slice. It's a way of working to be easier and and in the same time they communicate between themselves.
Thank you, Elise. Anyone else have some questions?
Thank you.
Tony, I have a question.
The floor is open.
I was just wondering if you can share the 12 sector image with us, and are you sending us the Google document with the roles in a shared Google Drive?
Well, what we're going to do is share access to everybody for our Google Drive, which is open source. And then, yeah, we can point you to, well, frankly, we need help. We need admin help, organizational help. We've got files that are probably not where they should be, and so it's a little bit of a mess. But yeah, absolutely, we'll share everything with you.
Cool, incredible.
Christopher's had quite a lot to say, everybody. Chris, would you like to just have the floor for a couple of minutes? I mean, obviously there's a lot of people here. We want to stay very focused, but you know, probably 2 minutes if you'd like to make I know it's impossible to summarize, but.
Do you mind if I quickly ask a clarifying question before we get into Christopher's stuff? Because I read a lot of it and I agree with a lot of what he wrote. So other than the document, if we know exactly what sector we want to be in, are we just meant to send an email through saying this is what sector we want to be involved with and then move forward with getting a buddy from there? I'm just trying to get clarity of what the next steps are.
Yeah, basically that's correct. Destiny, we will take everyone, step by step through and guide them to where they want to be. So an email is one way to do it. Well, there are more ways, of course, but you can use social media for it. But, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's good for me. I'm gonna just pop off because I have some other stuff to get ready for, but also I'll just put my hand up if you need help with organizing the drive. I'm really good at that and I'm happy to do it.
Thank you, Destiny. Right. See you later.
We should probably get to Christopher because I think he's got to go or something. He traveled 5 miles to get
Yeah, and it was only by chance that John sent me a message on Facebook and I made this meeting. And I just bailed and got here. I've been a surveyor for 30 years, and July 5th, I saw a picture of a hand of a man in Sumatra that was full of hail. And that's the first time it ever hailed in Sumatra. I've been measuring the solar angle since 2016, and I have noticed, I'm trying to hit with the solstice, that the angle is way low. 19 degrees is what I measured in 2016. On the 5th of July, I began measuring and I saw 14 degrees. By the 17th, I measured 12 degrees. It went back up to 20 degrees by August 14th. It is now at 29 degrees. I haven't measured today and I won't get a chance because it's overcast. These are simple things. They're easy to reproduce measurements. A person can take a plumb pole and stand it up, measure the height of it, and use nails in the ground to mark the shadow and measure the distance of the shadow from the base of the pole and use trigonometry and calculate the angle themselves at the solar noon, which is the shortest shadow. And so people can duplicate this everywhere. And it's common knowledge that the average angle is 23 degrees, and it goes kind of in a sine wave from 0 at equinox to solstice at 23.5, back to 0, 23.5, back to 0, and then 23.5. The cycle is much faster than the 3-month cycle that we find in our equinox.
Sorry, Christopher, sorry to interrupt here, but can you kind of get to the point here? I don't know that we can go that deep into.
Okay, the point is this: is that all of the toxicity, the warming, the greenhouse gases, it's all real, but it's not the sudden immediate threat to humanity. The real sudden immediate threat is being hidden, and it is this axis wobble and volcanism. And there is history of the sun rising in the west by various peoples, and this could happen with this wobble that's happening if it turns into a positive feedback loop. And science is sequestered, and so we can't count on these people. So what I'm saying is that action needs to be taken, and I'm a Californian, I understand our laws. We have a ballot initiative process. You will have seen the 2 simple things that California voters need to agree with, which they have no reason to not agree with and accept. And this will trigger a massive change in America, which institutes the purpose of free speech globally, whereupon all of your ideas can be shared globally. So that's really all I have to say right there. But there is a huge threat to us right now, and nobody knows about it. They're all focusing on greenhouse gases because science is hijacked. It's not only sequestered. So thank you very much for these moments.
Thank you, Christopher. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. And you send us some links in the chat there so we can research that more, can't we?
Yes.
Want to carry on, Troy?
Okay. Thank you, Christopher. Anybody else have questions? The floor is open.
Bruce has one.
Unmute, Bruce.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I was just interested in the mention of the 12 sectors, the 7 sectors, how many sectors there are, pizza sectors. I mean, reality is just kind of chopped up for, I mean, how many slices there are of pizza probably depends on how many people show up at the pizza party. But anyway, I have those graphics on this Transform the System website. And I could, if it's worth it, I could, if you could jump into a screen share for about 30 seconds, I could show you what that looks like. Is that interesting? Or maybe I just make a link in the chat. But
I think if you could share that could be a whole meeting in itself, which would be great. So maybe we share that later on as we divide into the different slices.
I think, Bruce, I mentioned in this meeting, and I referred to your project that, and we saw an example, right? There was this wheel of co-creation that it's actually the same frame. So I think if you share the link, then people can go into it later. And it's a separate meeting. I also sense it needs some more clarification, probably also by the questions of Parmjit. So I think it's good that we do it separately.
Sure, that's very sensible.
Gloria had a question. Gloria, you had a question?
Hi. Is the location chosen for the summit in June next year?
No, not yet. We were looking at Iceland, and we are kind of thinking that it will be gifted. The more exposure we get, the more, and this is not just the exposure for the World Summit, but for each and every group that is attached to it. So yeah, we are kind of convinced that it will be gifted.
Awesome.
So if you know any gifters, send them our way.
Well, I would just like to mention on that point, I think Blaise Nisi has mentioned he'd be willing to host the summit in some of the Heaventown locations. potentially?
Yeah. Thank you, Nathaniel. I think the activation team will step in here very soon, because through the inquiries we found out that there are at least 12 to 14 venues possibly available. So the activation team will reach out again to those people who filled this in on the inquiries. So who knows what comes out of it? Yeah, and Blaze is one of them.
Okay.
That will be the event team that chases.
Yeah, basically that will be the event team that will pick it up in combination with the activation team. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to address a couple of things that have come up in the chat while we've been doing this, and it's about sort of trying to prioritize what's our most serious threat, where is the biggest danger coming from, you know, is it social breakdown, volcanology, climate change, pole shift, etc. But the solution to all those things, if there is one, really comes from unification. You know, divided, we can't take on anything significant, can we? And so whatever we personally are most worried about, or our evidence points us towards, the solution really comes collectively from organizing together. You know, 7.5 billion people are a hell of a team to take on any kind of challenge, aren't they? And so we have to stay very focused on the unification process, not our own individual current red flags, if you like. You know, we do get a lot of this all the time, people concerned with their own particular aspect of challenges, some of them global in scale, but the solution ultimately comes from that unification. And so that, and it's very difficult not to get distracted with that, and we've all been down that route, sort of thing. So yeah, unification is the answer to everything, really. I'll stop there.
That little bit in the middle, Richard, that's the thing that we need to sort out before we can really address anything else. And yeah, everything else will happen so quickly, from the cleaning up the oceans to building new towns, cities, whatever we're talking about, and investigate the things that need investigating. Absolutely. So before that, we've got to unify and sort out that little bit in between. Should we all want to move forward and reach all of our goals?
There's a lot.
Could I just mention something here? In this big, sorry. Can I just mention here, just one thing, just an observation, just to make things a little bit easier for everyone as well, is we all here, and a lot of us haven't actually met each other, etc. And for me, other than the overall networking and bringing people together to find that little bit in the middle, I find that for me, a very, very big part of the little bit in the middle is literally each individual finding the different relationships that are actually going to service the reciprocity between different individuals around the world. So I've thrown my Facebook link in there because if anybody needs to sort of interface and find out, you know, where my sort of place is in this thing and how I can interface with other people, I'm open to that ongoing all the time. It is a relationship building process. And I think each one of us can actually take the time and trouble to actually interface with those that you feel there's an interface necessary, etc., and go through that process while we find this little bit in the middle that opens up as the real story, so to speak, and narrate this thing in an order that's professional and basically effectively bringing together our own media facility. We don't need mainstream media anymore to speak for us. So we need to start speaking for ourselves. But bringing that all together on an individual level, I'm reiterating that because it's not about the organizations, it's about the sovereign individuals. And we are here to service ourselves and each other, and we best do that from the outset. Thank you.
There was a comment about, you know, trying to schedule these meetings with a certain start and stop time, and I respect that, and frankly, we didn't know how long this meeting was going to go. So sometimes we just need to be a little bit flexible. So I don't want to cut anybody short. It's 3 o'clock, or excuse me, it's been 2 hours since we started. We started a little bit after that, waiting for everybody to join. So I think it's okay maybe to go a little bit longer and make sure there's no, not only questions, but suggestions. What are we missing?
I'd like to say something. This is Anna Salas. I'm just wondering if the goal of, wonderful to see all your faces. What's my takeaway from today is that I want to self-identify with a slice of the pizza and a potential role that I might be able to fill as a volunteer. Is that my takeaway for today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
That's exactly what this whole meeting is about, really. To get to know us a little bit. What are we doing? Where are we? And now it's time that all of us from different groups and different parts of the world come together and well, let's work it out. We can. In January, we had 12 groups, 10 groups coming over. And they all asked if they had to do a presentation, and we kind of said, well, no, not really. There's only one presentation, that's the World Summits. After that, we'll all get to work because we all want the same thing. We all have the one thing in common, and that is that we cannot accept the world as it is today. And if we want to change it, then we have to do it together. On our own, we're never going to make it.
And here's the thing, we have always claimed that we are a leaderless organization. Now, we may have natural leaders, but certainly not hierarchical type leaders. So we really do all need to be the change we want to see in the world. So if there's a problem, step in to fix it. If you see something missing, step in to fill that role. That's part of the unification. We all have to bring our piece of the puzzle and contribute our gifts. That's one thing that's very important that maybe I left out about the discussion about the gift economy. We need to give our gifts, what we are talented at and what our gift is to the world. We need to give that to the World Summit to make this thing happen. That's what more powerful expression of the gift economy is that.
Just with the whole cross-pollination of the wisdom and knowledge that we all have together, because I don't know all the answers, not at all. I have no solutions. There's one thing I do know, and that is if we want to get where we want to be, then we have to be bold and audacious enough to work together and just say to the old system, well, we all know the Buckminster Fuller quote, let's live by it. Most of us use it. Instead of fighting the old system, let's build a new one that makes the old one obsolete. And the only way we're going to do that is when we start working together. And the more hours we can spend on it, the bigger the group becomes, the bigger the support everybody gets will also benefit their own groups and what they're doing themselves. And everything will fall into place very, very quickly. But we just need to just do that little bit in between and just focus on that, folks, and get this show on the road, because we can do it. We've been talking about it since God knows how long. In the 70s, we had all the hippies that came together, all wanting to change the world. Half of them ended up in Wall Street. The other half, they started living an enlightened life. But now it's time to bring everybody back together and sort this mess out.
Yeah. And
Guys, can I just say something? Sorry, I just want to in terms of this being and doing, it's kind of imperative, and this is a very serious matter at the moment in terms of how we actually speak. If we are actuating, we are the new paradigm. We're already in play. Okay, this is happening succinctly at the same time as the mainstream structures that effectively run our world. So those two paradigms are sitting parallel with each other. So we don't have to try and do this. We're doing it. Okay, and I think we need to get in that actuation type of language and start articulating from inside out, physically, out, as opposed to from the mind out. It's bringing the whole body, mind, and soul into it, and fall into the cyclical nature of doing things. Honestly, because we are the actuators. We are in this game together. We're doing it. This is us. So hence I'm saying that let's just start assisting each other. Let's ask each one of the guys that we feel we need to communicate with, how are you doing? How can I help you? That's all this comes down to. It's a support place. It's a community. We are the new network. It is us. We're in, and we need to speak this way every day now, every moment.
Yes, I thank you so much, Gaëtan, for speaking in that manner, because as we are creating our new reality, our new paradigm, we are always creating. So speaking in the form of creating our new stories in the moment, not like forgetting the past, and always staying in that speech, in that narrative, that the new story that we are creating. And as we continue to create the new world, and as we are creating freedom, we're gonna create our new economy, and the biggest thing that we need to do is like switch from consumption to production, and that's what all these small organizations are doing as we were speaking about it, but unifying that and freeing speech, freeing everything is where we're headed. Yeah. And thank you. And I mean, it's been lovely being here, and I can't wait to work together and continue creating. And I look forward to meeting all of you at the World Summit.
Well, if you think about it, if I may say so, I started this 2.5 years ago. I was on my own with 6 people that gave me kind of moral support, and that was about it. And then I hooked on so many other people, and now we are having a core team that is getting larger and larger. Now with this core team, what we all can do together, we're going to build even a bigger core team of all different groups getting in there, and before we know it, we will have literally thousands of people working towards the same thing, creating thousands and thousands of hours of work, and we have some really good systems that we can then put in place to create an interim transition and transcend from this whole old stuff into the new. We all have different connections. Let's connect them all. Let's connect them all and change this together.
Thanks. So for anybody who hasn't spoken or asked a question, I would like to provide this opportunity if you want to say something.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier on, I'm working on a thing for communities to connect with other communities, and the heart of it is a lingua franca, as a sort of common language. And it's not a one-man job. If anybody's interested in working on a sort of protocol where we can distill down the essentials so that we can then share them and scale them, give me a shout, because it's getting big.
Awesome, thank you.
I've got a lot of work done, but you know, it needs more heads.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has not spoken that would like to? Paul?
Hi. I just wanted to say.
Paul and then Nikki, go ahead.
Hi. I see a lot of new faces here, which is fantastic. It's definitely going to be a group effort. And I dropped the link in the chat for anyone that's not familiar. I put together a comprehensive view of the World Summit, what it's doing, what it entails to do. And so please check that out, share it with your networks, and let's get the word out there.
Yeah, that was a great write-up, Paul. Thank you very much. Nikki.
I just wanted to say hi. I apologize I couldn't talk earlier. I've been working with JJ, and I'm excited to be a part of the team.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Nikki. Okay, well.
Anyone else?
I've got to say, Robert normally says, does everybody feel complete? You know, today I can actually say that this was an excellent meeting. Do I feel complete? Not yet, mate. Not yet. You know, we just need to work a little bit together, and then, you know, we become this whole driving force. And I mean, what a great show it is. You know, all these people coming together. The natives talked about the 4 colors coming back, and this wasn't in the sense of the color of our skin, but it was about the masculine and the feminine, the low tech, the high tech. Everybody is coming together because we're working towards the same goal. And to see these bunch of people here, you know, absolutely great. I think we can do wonderful stuff here, and very, very quickly if we put our minds to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe on a practical note, we organized with the Unity core team on the World Summit workspaces. It's basically from Origin and Evenienta platform, but everybody will be sort of finding his place in the different slices and teams. So we communicate through this platform. Most of you already have seen it, or I showed it, or we showed it in the body talk. So, but this will be sort of the next logical, practical step for us, and then we'll take things further. All the teams. Yeah.
And if anybody wants to come to Mexico and work, that you're more than welcome, and we will be talking about you'll see more about the unified Patreon platform for the GBI model. Sorry, go ahead.
Just one question. Will you be possibly doing a sort of a concise little vid or something of what you've done here, for example, so that we can actually publish it on our networks?
Well, yes.
A consolidated version.
Yeah.
This is something, Gaten, that we also want to discuss in the strategy team. So what is the best for on media, but also other fields. So yeah.
But I mean, even if it's just this particular sort of get together, it's quite a pivotal thing. And every time these things happen, they are always pivotal, and there's so many of them. But it's important that as these things are happening, that we can actually feed back, let's say, a consolidated clip. And we just put it into our little media sections, and that way this thing's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys,
thank you very much, guys, for what you've done and what you're doing.
You're welcome. And please thank yourself, man, because
this is going to be beautiful.
We're going to do this. Flip this frickin' paradigm. Yesterday.
We are doing it. Not we're gonna do it. We are doing it.
Guys, can you hear me okay or not?
I'm sorry. I just want to say bye, everybody. I really have to go. The place where I am, it's closing, so no internet anymore. Yeah. So I just want to say in 2 weeks or so, I'm going to be in Playa del Carmen and working with those crazy guys over there. And I hope to see most of you there and work with you in a way or another. Thank you very much. Be there.
All right.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
All right. We're complete.
Yeah, so to close this down, if there's anything, obviously we're going to send you the link of the whole presentation. Please have a look at it and see where you feel that your skills are most used. And send us a brief message, and let's get you into the slides. Let's get working together. Now, I've seen that Richard just briefly put his hand up.
Yeah, Grant wanted to say something, I believe. Yeah, we haven't heard from much of you, Grant.
Richard, can you hear me okay or not?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
You can hear me. Yeah, mate, you're a fellow Kiwi. I'm living over here in the UK now. Just one last suggestion. I thought it'd be quite useful. I mean, these type of video get-togethers are, I think, extremely helpful to everybody in the group. If we could maybe book these to sort of like occur once every 6 or 8 weeks. I mean, if we all bring our best ideas to the table, show what sort of contributions we can sort of make towards this collaboration, I think it would be extremely helpful. But if we keep things moving forward about every 6 to 8 weeks to a meetup like this, I think it would be extremely useful to everybody.
Yeah, if I may add something to that, the idea is where people decide on their slices, kind of to have weekly core team meetings, but just have 2 representatives of each slice at that time. Things will have been discussed in the meantime with the slices, and that is then being fed back to the middle, where you have 2 representatives of each slice and discuss things and feed it out to other groups as well. I've got to think now. So this is where we have every week we have meetings, but not every week everybody has to be there, because as the group go larger, obviously if we have everybody in the same room, it's going to be like an orchestra and everybody plays their own piece of music and it becomes really chaotic. So this is where the double linking system will really start working. It would be great to have a collective get-together once every 6 to 8 weeks, where we can all, I don't know,
well,
have a social maybe, but in between, we're trying to reactivate the slices.
Yeah, the suggestion was that just to keep everybody on focus and on task, because I think we've all got a shared goal. We all understand there needs to be a focus towards humanity working together as a people. I think that's just common sense. But if we can every 6 to 8 weeks sort of say, look, this is what we're currently focused on. These are our current goals. This is what we're working together towards. And if people have got really useful contributions they can add to that, then that would be fantastic. We might be able to throw them on the table to you guys and say, look, what do you think of this? And if everyone else in the the group basically thinks it's a good idea, then let's implement it.
Yeah, I like what I saw about posting about maybe UK folks could connect. That'd be awesome. Yeah, let's get people in every country connected. Start cafes and synergy hubs and simultaneous satellite events for the event itself.
Get in contact with local activist groups or anybody you are connected to, and you know, ship them over here. But eventually, these things become kind of webinars, and people will select themselves, where can I help? And all of a sudden, all of us here become the coaches to the new buddies. Let's put it that way. And this is how we grow. This is how we make it efficient and stronger.
Okay, I think we are complete.
Yep.
Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
We'll make this recording available to anybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well done.
Next time.
Bye.
Thanks. That was good.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's left. Jordan, I was going to connect with, but yeah, another time.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Jordan, we ought to hook up sometime.
Yes, absolutely.
Where are you? So I'm southwest on Dorset, so we're not too far away. Excuse us.
Yeah, no, I'm in Bristol. Yeah, so you're just down the road a bit.
Just down the road, yeah. Yeah, and I've got contacts in Bristol too, which might be useful.
Oh, right. Another one of the money-free party people are in Poole, Dorset, around your area.
So that's just down the road the other way.
Yeah, a guy called Nick Tapping, so he's right next door to you.
And you know the Happy City people in Bristol?
Yeah, yeah.
I know them. Yeah.
Oh, I know a bit. Yeah. Well, I don't know the people. I know of them. And
I
know.
can introduce you. Yeah.
Guys,
oh,
I don't
brilliant.
mean to cut you short, but we're going to end the meeting.
Yeah. we were hijacking the call.
You can. Oh, that's fine. You can connect.
Robert, before you go, can we